Gambling for a long time was a very visible problem on RuneScape. Many of you likely remember the days where you would walk into World 2 GE and it would be flooded with these different gambling clans offering their games of chance. Many of these gambling hosts actually quickly turned into the richest players in the game and then turned to things like real-world trading to make a lot of money from what they were doing. So since 2011, Jagex has really taken a lot of action against these people, and they've pretty much successfully ridded them from the visible surface of the game, forcing them into shadier corners of the internet. My intent for this video is to explore those shadier corners and try to find out some of the insider practices that are going on within these communities. I wanted to hear about the history of these websites, how they really came into fruition. I wanted to know about the shady stuff that's happening within the communities. I want to hear about the different programmers that are actually working on these websites and how they go about finding them, along with the other staff many of these websites are employing. And of course, I wanted to know how much money they're actually pulling in from these different gambling websites. I actually got very lucky. I got a good in with one of the co-owners of one of the biggest RuneScape gambling websites. I'm not going to mention any names, but he provided really great information that I think you guys are going to find extremely interesting. A little disclaimer, gambling is against RuneScape terms of service. If you want to gamble, go to the duel arena or go to your local casino. Don't do it on these websites. There's no guarantee that they're not going to take your items. There's no guarantee that they haven't rigged the bets in their favor. Per usual, my first question was, what is your involvement with this gambling website and how did this actually all begin? And he told me that nowadays he's really the chief operating officer for this website, and he has the on-site ranking of admin. And this really describes perfectly what he does. He handles all the administrative duties. He told me that he talks to the players, the mods, and helpers regarding any issues that require some sort of administrative support. He also told me that one of his main jobs is planning out promotional events, giveaways, and marketing to attract new players to the website. So how did he first get involved with this gambling website? He told me quite a long-winded story, but I'm gonna break it down for you guys. So in 2014, he saw a video advertising this new RuneScape poker website, and it was posted by one of the prominent RuneScape gamblers at that time. And he decided to go to the website and try out by betting a few million GP, and he told me that he actually won quite big a few times. And he said, quote, which ended up getting me hooked on both poker and this website. And from there, he was kind of always in the website, talking to people, getting friendly with the owner, and making some bets on poker. He also told me that one of his goals at this time was to become a rank within the website. And the ranks kind of had access to cashing players in and cashing players out. And when I'm talking about cashing them in and out, what I'm referring to is the gambling website's currency systems. So all of these gambling websites kind of have their own currency that you purchase with the RuneScape GP, and then when the time comes, you cash them out for RuneScape GP. So in cashing people in and out, he was probably able to take like a 5% fee. And he wanted to do that, obviously, so he could make some extra easy money. But the catch is you had to pay 500 million RuneScape GP to actually get the rank within that gambling clan. And that 500 mil was kind of used as insurance in case you ever scammed anybody. The site owner could pay them back. And so he told me that he was trying to save up for that for a long time, and he actually only ended up paying 300 mil for it up front because he got so friendly with the owner, and the promise is that he would pay back that additional 200 mil when he had it. And so really, this was the pinnacle in his RuneScape gambling career. By now being a rank, he was talking more to all the different staff members. Obviously, he was closer to the owner, and you need to keep in mind that the RuneScape gambling community is really tight-knit. These are the same people that have been perpetuating gambling in RuneScape since the very beginning. These are powerful people that have connections within this black market of RuneScape. And so he did that for a long time. He was always helping out, and he established familiarity with these people, and he also acquired quite a large wealth and trust within this black market. And so he told me on April of 2017, an opportunity arose for him to actually take on an admin position within this website. Now, the reason for this is because the former admin actually went rogue. He started spawning in chips for himself and then cashing them out for RuneScape gold. And so basically he was stealing from the website. Along with that, he also stopped doing his duty of kind of marketing the website and trying to get more people into it. And so this really brewed a need for a new admin who would take on that job, that could be trusted not to steal, and the owner contacted the person I'm interviewing and asked him if he'd be willing to take on this position, which he gladly accepted. Now, one of the interesting things that he told me is that being in this position means he's trusted with all of the website's code, all of the player logs, and the ability to alter those logs. He said he's basically trusted with the asset of the gambling website itself. And so I think this is a good time to mention this. You know, the people that make these gambling websites control the code that actually operates these games a chance. Meaning if they wanted to, they could rig the odds, or they could make it so you always lose on a big bet or something like that. So I wouldn't recommend ever going on these websites because that's always a possibility. If you're looking to gamble, do it through a more formal means. I already knew the answer before I asked this question, but I really wanted to hear it firsthand. I asked him what was the spark that really initiated the creation of this website. And he basically told me that it's because Jagex pushed all the gamblers out of the actual game and kind of forced them into these darker sides of the internet. You know, the goal with the RuneScape poker gambling website was to bring back gambling in RuneScape so they could have their business active again and they could start making that money. You know, had Jagex never taken steps to prevent gambling within the game, I don't think we would have ever seen any of these websites pop up. Clearly, though, it's a lot better to have them need to do this on a third-party website than within the actual game. My next question was, can you tell me about the shady stuff going on within this industry? And keep in mind, he obviously has an invested interest here. What he told me is probably the tip of the iceberg. I bet there's a whole other slew of stuff. But the first thing that he told me about, and a little pre-note here, pretty much all of these gambling websites have like a quote provably fair system. From a computer science standpoint, it's possible to fake those things. I didn't look into theirs too much. You know, there's definitely a risk there. I wouldn't trust them anyways. But he told me that one of the other big gambling websites uses this quote provably fair system for pretty much all of their games except for dice duels, and they're pretty notorious for having their staff accept bets from users using spawned chips. And you know, if you ask me, that's pretty blatant scamming when they're using spawned chips because they don't actually have the RuneScape GP to back that. They're just kind of creating it out of nothing, and then if you actually won against them, you know, how are they going to pay you? And that being said, you know, if they do have this provably fair system on all their other gambling things and then they exclude it from this one, whew, you know, I think that's a clear sign. He also told me that, like, generally it's shady within this community to have staff members play against other players, and I guess that happens quite a lot, you know, because these staff members have an invested interest in making profit for their business. So perhaps some of these websites might have like a switch where it makes the staff member win when they're playing against somebody. Like, who knows what could be going on there. He also told me that recently there's been a lot of Discord gambling servers popping up, which require virtually zero investment to keep up. So he's right, when you're running a website, like, you need to pay for a domain, you need to pay for hosting, all that stuff. But for a Discord server, anybody can make that and start running a gambling business out of it. And apparently there's a lot of scamming going on within those Discord gambling servers, and they actually come into his Discord server for the gambling website he's with, and they PM users trying to get them to join. I bet there's been a lot of scandals that have gone on in this industry with the different websites and the different owners. You know, generally, throughout history, we've seen a lot of sketchy stuff go on with gambling. So once again, don't use these websites, you know, find a more legit means. The duel arena is a great option. Of course, you know me, I'm always trying to scour for information on how much these underground services are making. And so, you know, I hit him with the question, how much money are you making from this? And he hit me with a reply saying, you know, I can't talk about this, and if you look in the website's terms of service, it actually pretty much contests that we don't sell any of this gold for real life currency. We just kind of keep it on our accounts because if we sold it for real life currency, like, that's legal implication, tax implication. We don't do that. Never. Don't touch it. And so whether you want to believe them or not is irrelevant. I think we should just talk about how much money they'd actually be making if they were selling that gold. And we can kind of figure this out with some basic math because on their website it tells us the total amount betted. Assuming that number is real, it says 274 trillion gold within the game has been betted through them. So assuming that number is real, we can do some math to figure out, hey, how much would that be worth in real life currency? The thing to note here is that their website is primarily RuneScape poker. a bunch of players kind of go into a poker room and they play poker together, and they make their money by taking a rake. And a rake in poker is like the commission that the house takes based on the pot within that poker game. Their rake is 5%. So if 274 trillion GP has gone through those virtual poker tables and they took 5% of that, that leaves them with 13,707,504,000,000 GP. Now, if they had all that GP right now and they sold it at 11 cents per mil, which is a going rate for bulk RuneScape 3 GP, and there's no way they'll be able to sell this much gold at once, but if they could, that works out to $1.5 million. Their site's been up for 5 years. That works out to nearly $300,000 a year. So if this is true, you can imagine why they wouldn't want to talk about that. Of course, it's all speculation, and it really relies greatly on that number they posted on their website of the total amount bet it being true. But if that is the case, that's a lot of money. Let me know what you think about that in the comment section below. So knowing they've been in business for so long, and knowing that there's a slew of other websites out there doing the exact same thing as them, I wanted to know, what is Jagex doing to combat this? Is it anything at all, or have they just kind of left it alone because it's not on the face of RuneScape anymore, so out of sight, out of mind? And really what he told me is that it's pretty much out of sight, out of mind. There's nothing they're really doing, and I don't know if there's much they can do. You know, one of the things that he told me is that none of the people that gamble on their website have ever been banned for just gambling, and take that with a grain of salt, because obviously invested interest, once again, like, he would want you to have that perception. I wonder if that's true. I've heard from other people running these underground services that they also don't ban people that buy gold. And it makes me wonder, are they just trying to coax people into believing that so they'll start using these black market services more? Or is that actually the case? Is Jagex not banning the consumers of these black market services? Let me know what you think about that in the comment section below. My last question was regarding the multitude of people they have working on this website. I want to know where these programmers are coming from, how the support team works, how they find admins, because a lot of gold sites right now are hiring people from overseas, so I want to know if they're kind of following that same trend. And the first thing he told me is that it's actually really hard to find a developer that's willing to work full-time on a RuneScape gambling website. And, you know, I believe that somebody that has that capability can work on, you know, much grander projects and probably make much more money. So he told me what they really try to do to find developers is snipe them away from the Counter-Strike Global Offensive market. Counter-Strike Global Offensive is another game that has really a massive gambling community around it. There's thousands and thousands of Counter-Strike Global Offensive gambling websites. You know, that's a pretty smart tactic on their part. As for the mods and helpers and admins, he really told me that they come from the same beginnings as him. Mostly they're just people that have been around their gambling website for a long time, that have acquired ranks on this website and just know the owner and talk to people, and eventually they get picked for these positions. Whether they're paid or not wasn't mentioned. I assume they are paid if they're making as much money as I speculated earlier on in this video. Once again, I do not advise that you ever use any of these gambling websites. The risk of them rigging their games a chance to give them a much greater odds to win, or having some sort of backdoor in their system that allows them to win if they so desire, is just too high. If you're looking to gamble, do it through a legitimate means like the Duel Arena in RuneScape, or like a local casino or some crap. And also, thank you guys so much for the support shown on my last video where I was being accused of doing these interviews for pay. You can watch that video if you think I am. I show all the chat logs from all the previous interviews I've ever done. Really, the comments on that mean a lot to me, and there was a lot of them. I'm very surprised, actually. Anyways, thank you all so much for watching. Plenty more content planned in the near future, and until next time, love, peace, and chicken grease.